Welcome to episode 2 of this F1 Manager series. I just want to give a little disclaimer before we head into this video. Some of the footage corrupted, so we're missing practice and qualifying and the setups, but we jump in around lap 42 of the Bahrain GP. Obviously, I give you some examples of upgrades and stuff that we're doing for the upgrades and how we're going to work out upgrades for this series. So make sure to watch the whole of this video to see where we finish so that you're up to date and ready for Jeddah, which is the next episode. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. So as a result of some technical issues, I lost half of the footage of the Bahrain GP. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the race results and I'm going to show you what happened in qualifying, as I sort of lost the footage for what happened in qualifying. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the standings, Grand Prix, and if you look at qualifying, we qualified P6, P7, 8-9 tenths away from Max Verstappen in pole. Obviously that is something we're going to look to rectify with the upgrades. We knew that this is going to be a struggle to start off the series. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chuck you into the last 15 or so laps of the race and the final box for Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. So like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully we don't have the same issues in Saudi Arabia and I can bring you a full race weekend. So thank you for watching, and the next episode will be Jeddah. So I'm going to skip now to the race weekend.
It's just come to my attention, 63% of you are not subscribed. What are you doing? Click that red button right now.
I've also just realised that you also won't have seen what we did for the upgrades. So as you can see, we've got a front wing upgrade and a suspension upgrade that are going to come in the next 25 days. I'm going to put in the picture below, I'm going to put the spinning wheel that we use to decide what upgrades we're going to do. So that's how we're going to sort out our upgrades this season. We're going to spin a wheel, that's going to pick. The suspension and front wing can't be picked again until we start doing research, and then we're going to go through until we've picked everything, and eventually what we'll do is that's going to be our way of designing going forward. It's going to be a spinning wheel for upgrades, and then eventually we might do spinning wheel for upgrades and then spinning wheel on where we're going to put the focus of that upgrade. So let me know what you think about this idea, and now I'm going to pass you to the race day. I know I said that a minute ago, but I'm going to pass you to the race day now. So we've had a huge issue with the file for this race weekend. As you can see, you join me at lap 42 now of this race. We've been through a whole phase of the race, a whole load of overtakes. As you can see, Lewis Hamilton found himself in P4 before he heads into the box. George Russell is there in P7. So there was a power cut and I've lost all the footage, it all corrupted. So what we're going to do is we'll go through these final 15 or so laps. I'll give you an overview of the race and then we will look on to the next episode. Hopefully I don't have another power cut within that episode and we'll go from there. So I'm just going to turn that light back on, and yeah, so let's carry on from here. George Russell's optimal box lap, but he's going to box the next lap after Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton is ahead of Alonso, who is on fresher tyres. Same with George and Stroll. So what we're going to do here is we're obviously boxing Lewis. We're boxing him for a set of the medium tyres. Brief overview of the race so far. Both drivers have done their medium stints. We're now heading into the fastest set of tyres, which is the softs. The softs, which they are going to run to the end of this race. So Lewis Hamilton probably won't be able to defend from Alonso here, but so we're just going to skip forward to the box. Let's watch Lewis come into the box. His first start was around 2.8 seconds. George's was around 2.6. Lewis now coming into the box with 15 laps to go. We can go full push on a set of those soft compound tyres. As you can see here, on go those soft tyres. How quick is the stop? It's a 3.0. Typical Mercedes, not great with their pit stops. So we're now going to set George Russell up for his box. And let's skip round. Let's see what Lewis can do. Obviously, he's miles ahead of Pierre Gasly. Let's get ready to watch George's pit stop as he comes around the final corner now. Lewis, on those soft tyres, may be able to catch up to Lance Stroll, but I highly doubt it. So I think best case scenario is a P7, P8 finish for us today. That is what I aimed for at the start of the race. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see qualifying or anything. So, qualifying, we qualified in 7th and 8th, I believe. It might have been 6th and 7th. It was about 8/10 off of pole. So, it's been an interesting race so far. I'm really sorry about the corrupted footage, but I'll just leave all this in for you to see. So, George Russell has exited the box about 2 seconds behind Gasly. Let's see what we can do with that. So we're just going to skip forward on the race now. Lewis Hamilton closing in on Lance Stroll. George is actually losing time initially to Gasly, but I believe that is because of the cold tyres. So Russell and Hamilton both chasing down their competitors in this final stint of the race. There is 12 laps to go if you look in the top left hand corner. 57 lap race. Lewis Hamilton is 5.8 seconds behind Lance Stroll. George is 2.8 behind Gasly. We put it on the last lap. Let's see. Lewis laps a second quicker. George is only a 10th quicker. So let's see, can Hamilton close that gap, as George is closing the gap now on Pierre Gasly. So George not quite in the DRS yet, but he is going to get there now. He's in the DRS for this next straight. Is he going to be able to get close enough to lunge down the inside or go around the outside heading into turn 3? There is a yellow flag. Someone has gone off. A car has spun. It looks like Nico Hülkenberg, but he is now back on the track. Let's look at that Nico Hülkenberg spin. He is behind a Ferrari and he loses it within the dirty air. Luckily, doesn't seem to have hit a wall, so no damage. He won't need to box, but he has lost a fair few positions. You see George now is 3/10 behind the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. He'll probably get him down this next straight. We're going to set his ERS to deploy to get him around early doors. Obviously, Gasly is on the medium tyre, which is naturally a slower tyre. As you can see, they're both lapping near enough 2 seconds quicker than Gasly. Now it's George's time to put in a gap to Gasly, so that when those mediums come back in with the tyre wear towards the end of the race, he's got a big enough gap. Lewis Hamilton is 3 seconds behind Lance Stroll, so we're just going to skip forward, see if he can close that gap anymore. See if he can get on the back of him, see if he can obviously overtake him. I think it's a tall order. Got 7-8 laps to go in this race now. So let's just see what Lewis can do. He's put a 10-second gap on his teammate George Russell. Lewis Hamilton is closing in. It is now 2.5 seconds. What are the lap times? So Lewis is lapping only a 10th quicker, but he's within 1.7 seconds now. Lewis might be able to get a P6 here. What we're going to do is, into the next lap, we are going to put him onto push with the fuel, and then after the first corner we will deploy it with ERS. But I think Lance Stroll will have just enough to get ahead and stay ahead. So let's deploy now, see if we can close up that gap. We're going to push Russell as well to make sure he gets a big enough gap on Gasly so Gasly can't come back. Obviously it's looking at about 10 seconds now. So we're skipping further through this race. Lewis has got the gap to 1.6. don't want to run out of deployment because that's going to be important in the final laps. Fuel, we don't want to be in the red late into this race. And Lewis is 1.1 seconds behind heading into the first corner. This is an overtake which could possibly happen in the closing stage of this race, so keep yourself tuned in. You could see our best result of the season, obviously, as it is the first race of the series. He is now within DRS range. Lance Stroll's tyres are going off. He is lapped a second slower than Lewis Hamilton on the previous lap. It's now 0.8 of a second. So Lewis will get DRS. Will he be able to close in on the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll? Let's see what Lewis can do. What we're going to do is, because it is near the end of the race, we're going to put Lewis on high overtake aggression. We need him to attempt those high risk overtakes because we need this position. It is big for the constructors because obviously we need to finish third this season to secure happiness from the board. Lewis, as you can see, getting into the clean air to protect those tyres. He's going to go around the final corner. Obviously he's within DRS range now, so let's just keep an eye on what Lewis can do heading into the back straight. I think he's going to get him down into turn 1.
4 to go.
So we have gone down into turn 1 as Lewis gets himself well ahead of Aston Martin. He is now going to deploy and push to try and build a little bit of a gap so this Aston Martin doesn't return the attack. As you can see, I think Lewis is going to be able to pull out a bit of a gap. The Aston Martin doesn't seem to be attacking all that much, and they were a second slower, in that previous lap. So I think Lewis will be able to pull out a gap in this little section here going into the back straight as we head into some traffic. So you can see ahead there is lots of cars, some traffic which you don't want to get involved in. We have an empty battery, low fuel, but we have put 8.5 tenths, 7.5 tenths, 6 tenths as a result of DRS onto the Aston Martin. George is miles behind, won't get anywhere near an opportunity to overtake, so we're now just going to skip forward through the next section of this race. Let's see if Stroll can fight back, and he is fighting back through the first sector. It's on 2 times speed now as Stroll just can't seem to get close enough. It's interesting that Lewis is going to have to be able to hold on to this position. It's big for the constructors battle. We really wanted both cars ahead of the Aston Martins, but early doors in this series they seem to have the edge with Fernando Alonso a fair 10 seconds up the road. So we're going to skip forward now as I think Lewis Hamilton is pretty safe from Lance Stroll. We're going to conserve some fuel because we need to make sure that he finishes the race. Lewis is now nearly 2 seconds ahead of 2 seconds ahead of Lance Stroll. Lando Norris has had a spin down in P12, and we finish the race across the line in P6. And George Russell comes across the line now in P8. So that's a big result for the championship. Obviously Alonso and Stroll both ahead, but when the upgrades come, that is something where we can hopefully get back ahead of the Aston Martin.
And among the drivers heading back to their teams, we see Carlos Sainz.
So we're going to skip past the podium, and as you can see, Sergio Perez takes an early championship lead with a win and fastest lap. Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc finishing off the podium. You can see the top 10 here, no real shocks, and if you go down and look at the bottom half, Oscar Piastri finishing a lap down, everyone up to P12 a lap down. So here's a quick look at the championship after the first race, and we are 4 points behind Aston Martin going into race 2. George collects 12 points for the fastest pit stop, and we are now going to get ready for the Saudi Arabia GP at Jeddah. The memorabilia room has completed another upgrade, but this is where I'm going to leave it for today's episode. I will catch you again tomorrow at 6 p.m. So make sure you like, comment and subscribe to watch round 2 tomorrow at 6 p.m. on the channel. So I will see you tomorrow. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.